Welcome, everybody, to the Friar Talk podcast and YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be going over the Adam Frazier trade and his fit. Now, if you didn't check it out, Isaac went live for about an hour. Borna from Hogwatch came on and had a quick discussion with him as well. And today we have Ben Fadden on, and Ben has had some sweet interviews. I will link his YouTube below, but we're going to be talking about Adam Frazier. Now, I'll go through some of the things really quickly. Overall, I never really said what I thought about the trade because I haven't been on the pod since the trade. I love it. I'm very excited. As we've talked about Gallo in the past, I really like the idea of bringing in Gallo, but it seems that Frazier was acquired at a price that is much less than Gallo would have cost. And for that reason, I really, really like the move. Isaac, we've talked about, I want to say since before spring training, that Tucapita was always going to be a guy that got traded. So the fact that you trade him away, which it seemed like it was inevitable to happen just because he didn't really have a spot on this roster. I mean, we've seen him bounce back and forth from the 26-man roster. And he gets moved, and he's, the marquee piece in that. I think that that's a great move when you can add the guy who's leading the league in hits. Super, super cool to be able to acquire him. I thought it would have cost a lot more. And I tweeted this out too. I was very surprised that Frazier came with money too, because he's basically going to be playing on the minimum this year, which is really, really cool. But I'm stoked for it. I'm really happy. And he said a couple things recently, basically said, there was a report that said that he's going to be like bouncing all over the field. I would assume that means he's going to play both the corner outfield spots and second base primarily, and then kind of bounce around through those. He said he's very comfortable doing that. And he said he also hasn't talked to AJ Preller about his role yet, so I don't know how true that is. We could also see other trades happen, so that would change a lot as well. But that's kind of where I'm at with him. He said he's comfortable. He said the Padres are the most exciting team in baseball. But Ben, what are your thoughts on this trade, and what do you think his role is going to be moving forward? Also, introduce your show to everyone real quick that hasn't checked it out.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Ben Fadden, host of the Talking Friars podcast. We have guests on pretty much every week. Today we had Jim Callis, who's on MLB Network, MLB.com, deals with the prospects a lot. But it's pretty much like your guys's. Me and my cousin Jacob, we go over series. We go over especially with the trade deadline, going over predictions, what player he might want, what player I might want, what they might have to give up. We've had Matt Vasgersian on. We've had Steven Woods on. We've had a lot of big names on, Jesse Agler. So it's really fun to, talk about the Padres, the team we all love. We at Talking Friars on Instagram, Twitter. You can find us there. You can subscribe on the YouTube channel, which Matt said he'd link below. And back to the Frazier talk. We said this on the reaction episode yesterday. It definitely was surprising, going in to this trade deadline week. You hear Joey Gallo's name a lot. I'm not, in favor of that because he strikes out a lot. I don't know if they would be able to, extend him long term. And the Rangers probably wouldn't take on Hosmer or Myers' contract. So I just didn't see that is a scenario that fit the Padres necessarily. But for Frazier, it was nothing that we were expecting. Because Hosmer with the big contract at first base, Myers with the contract in right field, getting paid $20 million a year, Cronenworth obviously at second. You didn't foresee Preller being open to moving all of those guys around and maybe having Hosmer and Myers. If there's a lefty, you might not see Hosmer very much now. It's going to be Frazier at second, Cronenworth at first. When there's a righty, you might not see a whole lot of Will Myers. You might see Frazier playing right field or at least one of the corner spots, and then Hosmer at least plays when there's a righty. But I think obviously makes the lineup more versatile. It will definitely adds another Jake Cronenworth, and you can't tell me that that's a bad thing. So it's definitely seems like a great trade. They didn't give up really anything. Tucapita Marcano was blocked. Right? He was a fifth outfielder earlier in the year because of injury. Jim Callis told us earlier today on the podcast that he just wasn't really ready. He was forced here because of injury. So if he, develops into a good player, the Pirates are hoping that he's going to be another Adam Frazier. Okay, maybe he does do that, and we wish all the luck to him. But he was blocked here. He wasn't going to have a big role here. Didn't know a whole lot about the prospects, Michelle Miliano, Jake Sawinski, but those guys didn't look like they had a future, at least, in the short term here, where this, window of contention is starting. So, and you're getting an all-star, obviously, in return that can play multiple positions. He can hit anywhere in the lineup. Maybe you hit him, lead off sometimes. You hit him right in the middle, or you can hit him, at the bottom third of the lineup to really lengthen that lineup out like they did in the all-star game. So it's a win-win, I think, for AJ Preller and the organization.
Yeah, and you brought up that we're giving up, guys like Tucupita Marcano, and the reason I bring that up is because it's not like the Padres are giving up anything important. They're giving up guys that are blocked. They're giving up a guy like Marcano who's probably going to be blocked by guys like Jake Cronenworth and CJ Abrams here soon in the future. So it's not like they're giving up any major prospects. They're giving up guys who aren't going to provide them any maybe value off the bench, but not any startable value like in the league. This Adam Frazier trade, I brought it up many times. Batting 327, 392 on base percentage. That is absolutely huge for the Padres, who can sometimes struggle with consistency in the lineup. You see, in that Braves series and that National series, they were lighting the scoreboard up, and then they come into Miami and they have a tough time putting up some runs. So right off the bat, you can see some inconsistency in the lineup regarding putting up some runs. So it's always really good to get that one consistent bat in the lineup who, in my opinion, you bat him leadoff just because of how often he's getting on. You set up a bunch of RBI opportunities for the 2, 3, 4 guys. And I think that's what will benefit the lineup. You move Tommy Pham and Trent Grisham back-to-back at 5 and 6, two guys who both also get on a lot, can both hit for power, two of our better bats in the lineup right now. And I think you're going to have one of the deadliest lineups in baseball for sure. Now, regarding what position he will play, he can play. The good thing is, he can play a second base. He can play the corner outfield spots. Maybe he can play a little bit different positions. And we also have Ha-seong Kim, who can play all of the infield, except for first, but who can play much of the infield. And, there's a lot of depth pieces on this team right now. And the good thing is that there's no such thing as too much talent. Like, you can say, oh, this guy, that we already have Ha-seong Kim or we already have Jurickson Profar or whatever it is, but there's no such thing as too much talent on this team, especially when you can acquire an all-star talent like Adam Frazier and plug him in anywhere you want. That's going to be huge. And you've seen organizations like the Dodgers who have had super utility guys. They have Chris Taylor right now, and he's having a really good year. Guys, whenever you can have a guy like that, it's going to benefit the team. It's going to benefit everyone, especially in the lineup. And it's always really good to get some new faces in the clubhouse. You never know what kind of energy that can provide to the other guys. But this was a huge trade for the Padres. Didn't give up a lot and got a lot in return, especially if you consider the type of player Adam Frazier is this year.
Yeah, you brought up that he could play in many outfield spots. He actually played in center for 9 games in 2018. So it's been a couple years since he's done that. But worst case, he can give Grisham an off day. I would much rather see Adam Frazier in center than Profar or Tommy Pham. Like, we've seen that. That's a little bit scary. And it's going to be interesting. I think that he's probably going to give Pham a couple rest days every now and then. I think that you're going to mostly see him and right in second, though. That's what I would guess. Also, like we said, a corresponding move could really change what we think of where he'll be playing. Talking kind of like Ben, you brought up, Gallo and how that was very linked to the Padres. It's really interesting when you look into Adam Frazier's baseball savant numbers, because it's really different than Gallo. You see a guy, it's strikeout 98th percentile, batting average 97th percentile, exit velocity 4th percentile. He is way different than Joey Gallo. So I know a lot of Padres fans didn't really like the idea of bringing him in. This is a guy that's completely different than him. So I think a lot of people like that. He doesn't walk at some crazy rate, but when you're hitting over 320, that's all right. I also like that you brought that he could potentially be a bat at the end of the lineup. When we've mostly talked about it, we've thought, okay, he's probably going to hit 1 or 2. I still think that there's a good chance that happens. But say you have, for whatever reason, a matchup and you like Pham and Grish at 1, well, you can move him to 6 or 7. And he's in a great spot to drive guys in. So 6, 7, that I think 1, 6, or 7 is mostly where we'll see him in the lineup. And I think that's a really good spot for him. I'm really looking forward to seeing him on the field. A guy that some people said hey, he's overperforming this year. It's he's not. This isn't really him. He's not playing at his median. Well, if he continues to play like this year, that's amazing. If he slows down a little bit, that's still okay because he's still going to be a very valuable piece. So we'll kind of see how that plays out. But I mean, this year he's been fantastic. So I'm really excited for this. Ben, anything else you wanted to add to the conversation though?
Yeah, so AJ Preller just said that he's going to play second, left, and right, mostly, just like we're talking about. And, you're talking about if he slows down. I mean, this year, if he stays on track to what he's doing this year and maybe even just a little worse, that's what the Padres are, that's what they want right now. The window of contention, at least for his contract here, he's a free agent after next season. So it's not like they're going to have him for, 4 years after this. They could with an extension, but they're not going to have him for this long period of time where you're worried about, oh, well, if he slips off and obviously he's not a power hitter, that might be trouble. They have him for this year and next year, so I don't see that being, that big of an issue.
How about a big slept on part of this trade? It's probably not even slept on anymore. I think everyone knows at this point, Eric Hosmer is not going to be seen on the field as much anymore. And yes, he's providing a lot of value at the plate right now, but on the field, you got to look at the numbers, the advanced statistics. He's not very valuable on the field right now. You're probably going to see a lot more Jake Cronenworth at first. And I love Jake Cronenworth at second. I mean, I absolutely love Jake the Ray Cronin God. He's made some amazing plays this year, saved a lot of defensive runs saved, in my opinion. But this is huge for the Padres. Their lineup, a guy like that who's batting 327. Finally, we get somebody that's going to provide a lot of consistency. That's going to set up a lot of 2-run shots for Fernando Tatis. And this is just a great time to be a Padre fan. I said it many times on the stream yesterday, but and even when he's gone, CJ Abrams is up next. And then the pitching staff, whoever we get, I'm sure we're going to get somebody. Mike Clevenger's back next year. Mackenzie Gore's up next. So even if we're trading away guys, we still got guys in the farm systems that are going to come up and provide value.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. You brought up that you're probably not going to see Hosmer as much on the field. Another kind of thing that we learned from this makes it seem that Nola is going to be a catcher, because we had talked about this in the past. Like, is he healthy enough to be the primary catcher, or is he going to be more like a first baseman and kind of spell Haas against all the lefties? Well, that's not going to be the case anymore, because I'm pretty certain that Jake Cronenworth will move to first and Frazier will move to second when they are playing against lefties. So that means that Nola's going to be behind the plate, which is huge. We've seen that he has great chemistry with Blake Snell. And I saw yesterday in the live stream, Isaac, that was brought up a ton, that people are like, oh, is that the guy that's going to catch Snell? And I think everyone thinks that's probably the case. But now you have 2 very formidable catchers behind the plate. So that's going to be huge. If you have Nola hitting 8 in this lineup, that is really, really special, because he's much better than an 8-hitter on most teams. And this just speaks to the depth that the Padres now have. But with that said, I think that'll do it for this segment. So thanks again for coming on, Ben, and we'll talk to you guys very